Hello, this is Kai Marie, and you're listening to episode 11, season 1 of the Healing Element podcast. If you're watching this episode on the Healing Element podcast YouTube channel, please be sure to like and subscribe. If you are listening by audio, please be sure to download today's episode and subscribe. Today's topic is the healing power of trauma-informed bodywork. Please enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Healing Element Podcast, a weekly discussion giving you the tools to understand and heal from intergenerational trauma. I am your host, Kai Marie. To find out more information about the topics discussed today, visit kaimarie.com. Hello, this is Kai Marie, and welcome to the Healing Element Podcast. I am your host, and I have a very special guest with me today, Naomi Bourassa. She is a licensed therapist and yoga instructor in Orlando, Florida. Naomi's pronouns are she, her, hers. She is a licensed massage therapist since 2004, continuing education in several modalities, including Thai massage, myofascial release, neuromuscular therapy, Reiki, aromatherapy, and reflexology. She provides an integrative approach to each session, offering self-care tools to each client depending upon their individual needs. Naomi became a certified yoga teacher in 2010. She focuses on the basics and assists her students in cultivating body awareness. Naomi strives to offer yoga that is safe, inclusive, and accessible. She incorporates chair yoga, wall yoga, and a variety of yoga props in her practice. Naomi is passionate about offering trauma-sensitive yoga to allow her students to explore movement at their own pace. As a yoga student, Naomi has learned to respect her own boundaries and wishes to provide a safe space for her yoga students to establish and practice their personal boundaries to feel empowered and free. Love that. Additionally, Naomi has a master's degree in social work and has experience working with the LGBTQ plus community and provides individuals recovering from trauma. Naomi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I look forward to this conversation. Today we're going to be talking about the power of trauma-informed bodywork. So I look forward to talking to you about this so we can talk about the healing power of it, and how people can learn some tools so that they can start to apply it to their lives as they're on their healing journey. So I'm looking forward to today's conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Yes. All right. So let's jump right into it. So before we kind of get into the conversation of what is trauma-informed bodywork, let's first take a few steps back and talk about how trauma affects our nervous system and our breath, because then that will help us better understand why this type of work that you do is so important. So can you kind of explain that to us a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So the nervous system has kind of two main modes: the sympathetic, which is fight, flight, or freeze, and parasympathetic, which is rest and digest. So when we experience trauma, our body goes into that sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, or freeze, which has a number of physiological effects on our body in order for us to survive. So this mode of nervous system is extremely important for our survival. However, many of us get kind of stuck there due to daily stress, but again, due to previous past traumas, whether it was a singular incident or what's called complex trauma over time that has happened, it can kind of become habitual to stay in that fight, flight, or freeze mode. So this will, again, have multiple physiological effects on the body. I specifically kind of focus on how it affects our breath especially as it relates to yoga and massage, and kind of use that as the gateway into understanding how these stress responses affect our daily life.
Awesome. And so with the trauma-informed body work that you do, can you kind of explain what does that mean? Because I know we
Right.
probably see that a lot, like on social media, and now
Yeah.
especially, I know I don't like to date episodes, but by the time this episode posts, I'm sure we're still going to be dealing with COVID-19 and just trying to still adjust to what our lives look like at this point. So I'm sure a lot of that type of trauma-informed body work that's being really promoted, which is important that it is. So help us understand exactly what is that type of body work, and how does it help connect us to our breath?
Yeah, and that's such a good question, because in my experience of diving deeper into trauma-informed body work, I had the impression that it was a particular modality. Like, if I learned this modality, I would be trauma-informed. But as I've, gone through my education, understanding that it's more of a mindset and kind of just like a global understanding of what trauma is. So really understanding the impact that trauma has on our mental, emotional, and physical health. Understanding the different types of trauma. Like I mentioned, there's complex trauma, there's acute trauma, there's secondary trauma. So really understanding what these are, and what kind of traumatic events there are. So I'm sure you've heard of the ACEs study, right? And so, we can provide a link to that, but it's just a quick questionnaire to see, like, what experiences have I had that are considered traumatic? And then you're able to kind of understand for yourself as a practitioner what that means. So when I work with my clients, I really just come from that place of understanding that somebody's walking through my door with their own history, and to see them as an expert in their history and an expert in their experience, because trauma takes away choice. It's an unexpected event that takes away our agency. And so that's where I start, is giving the power back to the client, giving them control of the session. They lead the session. I learn, what have you already done? What do you know about yourself, your body, your experience? You tell me, and then I will offer whatever tools I have to find out if that will be helpful for you. And if they're not, if we're working with a particular tool like the breath, if we're working with a type of breathing pattern and it's becoming triggering, okay, let's stop, let's take a minute, let's reground, and let's figure out something else that's going to work. It's not prescriptive. I think that's the main thing. Like, there's no like one way for somebody to recover. So let's figure out what your recovery path looks like.
Right. I love that you said that it's not like a one size fits all, that you're really kind of in tune to the person that you're looking to assist, see what works for them. And also the point that you had mentioned, that ACEs test that people can take, because we can, you could have grown up in a community or in a family in which trauma is just kind of like a part of your daily life, so you don't even realize that you've experienced trauma. So I think that test that you mentioned, and as you said, there definitely will be a link, so that people can take a look at that and begin to assess that in their own lives, and just start to have a conversation. So, don't take the test and say, oh my gosh, what does this mean? Because it does also show that there is a correlation between your childhood traumas and health outcomes, but at least start to have the conversations, have a dialogue. That's extremely important. I think that's what you are also saying here, is that when you're looking to help a client, or if someone is looking to have, seeking out trauma-informed bodywork, it's start to have the conversation, getting to know what maybe your triggers are. Like you said, even your breath, which is amazing, right? That even your breath can be a trigger. Taking a deep breath, inhale, exhale, that can all kind of cause a reaction in one's body.
Absolutely. And so even then, I don't I don't do a prescriptive type of breathing technique. There's, and I know these probably work for other folks, but for me, I notice in my own body. And so it's very important for us to understand our own trauma and our own experience to be able to work with our clients. So I know when I do breathing patterns that require counting, like breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, that kind of breathing actually creates more tension and anxiety in my body. So I instead really encourage my clients to work intuitively and allow for whatever length of breath feels comfortable, maybe extending it a little bit longer than it was before, but not having, like, putting it in our heads that it has to be a certain box. Like, that's called box breathing, and it puts you in a box.
Right. So true. So true. And I want to go into the type of work that you do most in Florida. And I also wanted to just add to that when you're saying, like, what do your clients feel comfortable doing? Because it's really giving them the opportunity to listen to their body. Like, what is your body telling you?
Yeah.
And as you said, giving that power back to them that they can say, okay, this is how I'm feeling, and be okay with expressing that.
Yeah.
Because that could be something that they haven't been able to do or they haven't done in so long. So it's definitely, I see how that connects, the work that you're doing connects them back to their body and starts to create, like, your body is a safe space and beginning to learn how it is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Kind of. And for some individuals, their body has never been a safe place. So really slowly walking that path with them to find safety in their body. What does that even mean?
Right.
And so again, just really going at their own pace. And I think it's really important as practitioners for us to be humble in knowing that we are not healing anyone. We are offering space for our clients to heal. And we're giving them tools for our clients to heal. So when a client gives us any indication that something is not working, even, and I think we talked about this before, even noticing when a massage client is on the table and they're freezing, they're in freeze mode, they're not responding in any kind of way, it's up to me to recognize that and kind of coach them back into their body and find out what's happening right now, like, and not to try to fix it, but just be there to hold space and help us both build awareness about what's going on. What are you noticing?
Right, right. That's so true. And as we had discussed offline, that used to happen to me all the time when I would go and get a massage. And the first time I got a massage, I was in my I think I was 30. And up until then, I was just like, I can't have someone touch me. And I don't know where what that stems from, like this real sense of needing to protect myself and just this fear of somebody else, just being vulnerable, like laying on the table, all of that, just like that alone, the thought of laying on the table and someone standing over me that I didn't know, that would raise my anxiety.
Absolutely.
And so when I finally did a massage therapy session, I actually did a couples massage with my fiance, and I was like stiff as a board. And the therapist, I mean, bless her heart, she's like, okay, just take a deep breath in. I was just like, like, like,
yeah.
It was just like, I couldn't relax. And so I say that for, if anyone's listening, if you have like that same reaction, as Naomi's saying, like, start to have that conversation with your therapist and say, like, this is how I'm feeling. Because I can relate. And it took me a while to finally be able to relax when I would get comfortable with that one therapist. But like a 60-minute massage session would not work for me. I needed the 90 minutes because by the time I got to 60, I was then starting to relax.
Right. Yep.
And so that having that conversation, again, extremely important. And so the work that you do, Naomi, massage therapy, and also yoga, can you also talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah. So again, there's every single massage and yoga modality can be trauma informed.
Mm-hmm.
I like working with Thai massage and myofascial release, just because they've been beneficial for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I like Thai massage just as its own modality because it's just so beautiful. It's assisted stretching, and so the person is completely clothed the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like a mixture of yoga and massage, and so I'm able to approach the session from like that yoga mindset of let's start with the breath. Let's really drop into our bodies and notice what are we feeling wherever we're at.
Mm-hmm.
And so especially for folks, who aren't comfortable getting on a table unclothed and being in that kind of position. I love Thai massage because it's so completely different. You're clothed and you have I feel a little bit more control, a little bit more agency in the session. Myofascial release is one of the modalities I would say is more trauma informed because of the nature of the work that we're working with the fascial system, which is very responsive to trauma, whether physical or emotional trauma. And so it's the technique that I've learned with myofascial is very slow and works at the client's pace. We're not forcing anything to happen. We're not digging in there, trying to fix, quote, the problem. We're just holding space and seeing what happens and what arises.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And then with yoga, any class I teach, I really love wall yoga and chair yoga and restorative yoga.
Yes.
those gentle practices.
I love it all.
Yeah. Bless the hearts of people who love power and hot yoga. It's not my thing. But, I always offer options. That's the main thing is just I offer like 2 or 3 different options for every pose that we do, constantly reminding the client that, or the student that, this is your practice and you make the pose work for you. You're not here to fit into some sort of box. There are, a multitude of poses for the same purpose, right? If you're trying to get some opening in the hips, there's tons of different poses in order to get into the hips. So we're going to find the pose that's going to work for you, that's not going to cause injury or pain or discomfort or trigger you in any sort of way. And so I really rely on verbal cues. I do not do hands-on adjustments. Even as a massage therapist, I'm licensed to touch people, but I don't in the yoga class because it's not the appropriate space for me to check in and make sure, hey, is it okay if I touch you, or how's the pressure? Because in that space, someone who has experienced trauma, they might freeze. They might just say, okay, because they're afraid to say no.
Right.
And so I have a whole blog post on how to say no to your yoga teacher, and that it's okay to say no to your yoga teacher. And then
I would definitely like to include that in the link in the description for sure.
Yeah. And then as teachers and as massage therapists, understanding check your own ego. It's okay if somebody tells you no. It's not that you did something wrong or they're being difficult or whatever you want to come up with. It's that, okay, let's find out what works for this person.
That's, oh my gosh, that's so true. And so I'm not a yoga therapist, but I am a yoga therapeutics teacher. And one thing that I do, because yoga therapeutics, there's a lot of hands-on, right? So I always kind of say that in the beginning.
Yeah.
Typically there is touching because it's part of the whole healing process, that kind of sharing of energy. So that's always said in advance. However, even though saying that, the person could say, oh, that's fine. Yeah, I'm totally fine with that, right?
Right.
And so then you start, and then you notice the breathing changes, body becomes a little rigid. So as yoga teachers, it's, as you said, it's so important to recognize this. Not like, okay, just keep breathing, I'm gonna just keep touching your hands and your feet. It's like,
Yeah.
no, stop, because obviously this sensation is causing some type of reaction.
Yeah.
So let's just take a step back, because our client kind of leads the way. So let's
Absolutely.
take a step back, and we notice that your breathing's changed. How are you feeling? Again, start that conversation again. And for someone that's receiving the services, as you've said through this whole interview, it's okay to say, okay, can we stop for a moment? Can we stop? I don't feel comfortable. It is okay to say that.
Yes.
And so one thing that I have done with clients is, if I'm moving to a certain area, so let's say if I start the feet, and they're kind of propped up using yoga bolster and blankets and all of that fun stuff. And I'll say, okay, now I'm going to bring my hands to your feet. You may feel warm sensation, just this is where I'm moving. So it's not
Yep.
like your eyes are closed or you have an eye
Yep.
pillow and I'm kind of moving all around and you don't know
Yep.
where my hands are going next.
Absolutely.
That could be freaking you out. Like, where is she, number one? Because now I don't feel her touching me. So is she in the
Yep.
room? I mean, that can cause, that can be trauma in itself. So having that continuous dialogue is so, so important.
Absolutely. Yes. And, I really try not to move off my mat in the yoga class anymore. And if I do, like, hey, I'm getting up, I'm going to go change the air temperature. I'm going to go close the door. I'm going to go get you guys some blocks, or, like, I'm telling people this is what I'm doing as I'm moving around.
Right.
And in the massage session, if it's a brand new client, telling them up front, this is how I move through this session. These are the types of things I'm going to be doing. I usually move from the head to the feet, or the feet, like I walk them through ahead of time. This is what you can expect.
Right. So, so true. So I'm glad that that's something that's so important for us to be mindful, whether you're providing the service or receiving the service, to make sure that you feel comfortable with having those open lines of communication.
Yes.
So if somebody is interested, as we start, unfortunately, I feel like time's moving so fast. Our
I know.
conversation is starting to wind down. Is having so much fun with talking about this. And
yes.
I know this can really help people. So if someone is interested in trauma-informed bodywork, let's say they want to maybe do a yoga session or the Thai massage, what's some things that you recommend for them to do beforehand if they're doing their research or looking for a therapist? Are there things that you recommend for them to pay close attention to?
Yeah. Again, I think having a communication, a conversation, dialogue beforehand is really key. So I offer a free 15-minute phone consultation before I meet with a new client, so that we can talk, get to know each other. What are you looking for? Is my service appropriate for you? So I think it's totally okay to reach out to a massage therapist or a yoga teacher beforehand. Say, hey, can we talk, or can I get some more information? And then be able to tell them like what it is you're looking for. If you're looking for trauma-informed practice, just say that up front. What is your experience working with individuals with trauma? Some keywords you might look for, at least in the yoga community, there's a lot, from what I see, there's a lot more conversation in the yoga community about trauma-informed practice than I've seen in the massage community so far. Not that it's not there. Maybe I just pay more attention to yoga. But like keywords like accessibility, cultural competency. There's a lot of conversations around decolonizing yoga, making sure we're honoring the original practice of yoga, including individuals from the BIPOC or community, or people of color, the LGBTQ plus community. So looking for these kinds of things, working with individuals with disabilities, anyone who's kind of like along those wavelengths is probably going to be a little bit more aware of trauma-informed practice.
Okay, awesome advice. And there's one thing I just remembered that came out of our other discussions, and I wanted to say that before we wrapped up. when you said some people would come to you and let's say they're like, oh, my back hurts, or like
Mm-hmm.
some type of physical pain.
Right.
It's not so much just saying, okay, I experienced this in my childhood and I see how it's now popping up in my life.
Yeah.
Usually there's some type of physical pain, but through your work, it can start to uncover other past traumas. So
Right.
to anyone who's listening, and not saying that your back pain means that that's how
Yeah.
trauma is showing up,
Yeah.
but if that is the case, I think it's even more so important that even if you're looking for a therapist, or anyone who does the type of work that Naomi does, to make sure you have that conversation, because if something does pop up, you do want to at least be comfortable enough to say, wow, I came in for my back, but I'm starting to have maybe like flashbacks or something about,
Mm-hmm.
you know, things from my childhood that I kind of buried, and now they're starting to pop up again. So you do want to feel comfortable to have that conversation, not to go into detail, but at least
Right.
tell the person that's what you're experiencing.
Right. Yep. And yeah, and that way, if that does come up, then hopefully the massage therapist or yoga teacher has some connections to mental health counselors and therapists
Mm-hmm.
that they can refer you out
Right.
to address those particular things. So, you know, we, of course, we always want to stay in our scope of practice
Yes.
and
Yes.
not step
Big on
outside.
that.
Right.
Very
So,
true.
but yeah, you know, like, but at the same time, we are whole bodies. Like we can't just separate, okay, this is my mental health now and this is my
Right.
physical health now. Like it gets muddy. So
Mm-hmm.
when you do notice it coming up, being able to say, oh, I guess I could use some help in this area.
Right, very true. And so for those that maybe they did sign up, so they have a scheduled appointment, um, is there anything that they should know before they go? Of course, we know that it needs to be comfortable with having that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that you would have them recommend for them to know also in advance of their appointment?
Yeah, I think just remembering that you as the client are the boss. You are in control of the session. And you know, within respect of the, you know, yoga teacher or massage therapist, you know, having a respectful dialogue, but understanding that you are leading the session. And yes, the yoga teacher or the massage therapist might be an expert in their field, but that doesn't mean that they know exactly what's going to work for you. You are the expert in yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
so it's a mutual relationship. It's a collaboration. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think in our society we have the mindset like the doctor is going to fix me,
Yeah.
right? And but this is within the yoga and massage world, it's more of a collaboration rather than me telling you, okay, this is my tool and it's going to fix you and that's it, and no conversation.
Right, right.
So I think that's the most important thing, is to remember that you are the boss, and you have every right to let the teacher or massage therapist know if you're uncomfortable. And the the any professional practitioner is going to respect that.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to welcome your feedback
For sure.
rather than get you know, offended.
Right, right, right. Very
You
true.
know, we should all be very confident in ourselves and our practice, knowing that we don't know everything,
Mm-hmm.
and to kind of just work alongside with our client to figure out what works.
Right. And I just wanted to go back to the point that you made about like it's so true. We are in a culture in which we go to our doctor, say, fix this hurts, fix that, give me a pill, give me something to make this go away. And I have seen in some, like I read some of the yoga magazines. I'm not going to name any in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there'll be stories of people that are saying, you know, I suffer from depression and I started yoga and my depression went away.
Right.
So then there's this type of narrative that's gone out that yoga can also fix everything. Like
Right.
just do yoga, do some down dog, do some warrior one, warrior
Right.
two, and whatever, you know, stress you're feeling, everything that all go away. But healing is a process, it is a journey, and there is no quick fix.
Absolutely. Yep. It's a recovery journey.
Exactly. I like that recovery journey. So as we start to wind down, unfortunately, I love talking about yoga and just this different type of healing modalities. Are there any other final recommendations or resources or anything that you would like to leave with our listeners today?
For practitioners, just number one, our goal is to do no harm. And so I know that when I first started getting into trauma informed practice, I got a little bit overwhelmed and kind of scared, like, oh my God, anything I do, I could trigger my client. And it got a little bit overwhelming. And so I've had to just kind of work through that of understanding, like, what I'm in control of and what I'm not in control of. I am not in control of other people's reactions or triggers. What I'm in control of is just how I present, how I respond when somebody's going to get triggered. It's going to happen. So I'm in control of how I respond to that. And then again, just understanding your own scope and referring out whenever you need. So that you don't get so overwhelmed with, oh my God, I have this person that needs all of whatever, and I'm, expecting myself to meet all of those needs, and we can't. Nobody can. So just having that self-compassion for ourselves as practitioners, and also our clients, for anyone who's receiving these services, to have compassion for ourselves, that it is a process and it's a journey. So, we're talking about massage and yoga because those are the tools I have, and those are the tools that have worked for me. But there's so many tools out there for recovering. Kayaking can be part of your recovery journey, right? So whatever your tool is, then go for it.
Right. Yeah. Don't put that in the box. It's not supposed to kind of look a certain way. I mean, you want it to be, of course, healthy. You don't want to do anything that, but it doesn't have to look like yoga, right? But if it does, then these are some things that you should be mindful of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. So, remembering as practitioners to just be flexible with ourselves and flexible with the clients.
For sure. And so, Naomi, if people want to learn more about you, your work, how are they able to reach out to you?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's naomibourassa.com. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook. And like I mentioned, I have a couple of blog posts so far about it's okay to say no to your yoga teacher. And I have another blog on trauma-informed body work, so I can post those as well.
Yes. And I didn't say this in the intro, but I wanted to say the reason, or how I should say I became connected to Naomi, is because of the post on her Instagram page. I just loved how she explained and showed how yoga is a healing modality. So many times, especially now in our society, we think of yoga and we think of people that are super flexible, maybe being extremely fit, whatever we want to define as fit. And so that has kind of become the face of yoga. And with the work that I'm doing, and I saw what Naomi was doing, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to meet her, because I love that you could see the compassion and care that she has for this type of work on her post. And so for that, I just reached out to her and said, hey, I'm doing a podcast. And from that, we've had several conversations. So please do check out her Instagram page. You'll find a lot of helpful information, and also what she's going to be offering under quarantine, which is super, super important. And by the time this episode is posted, I'm sure we'll still be under quarantine. So make sure you stay abreast of what she has going on her Instagram and other social media platforms.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you all for listening or watching. I really, really appreciate it. To learn more about the services offered, please visit kaimarie.com, and please also sign up for the Journey to Healing newsletter, where bi-weekly you will receive helpful information on how you can manage stress. You all have a wonderful, wonderful day, and talking soon. Bye-bye.